Welcome everyone. Today I wanted to discuss the Oni and give you a little bit of gameplay example of ways that you can kind of counter him within loops. But first things first, I did want to go over Hillbilly, Blight, and Oni because the three of them are fairly similar in the way that they play and the kind of strategies that they use. So first, you have Hillbilly, and I broke these down into whether they can flick, what their early turning is like, their bouncing off of walls, base kit turning, insta-down, things like that. So with Hillbilly does not have a flick at the end. Basically, once you are in his sprint, you have limited turning, and it can be fairly difficult to hit attentive survivors with it. But he makes up for this by having a sort of early flick or an early turn, which is called, you can call it curving, feathering, different techniques. And in this diagram, you can see that he can either go straight with his chainsaw, but let's say there's a car loop here, as a car loop is one of Hillbilly's best loops for this. Anything with a right angle, really. He can go out, and while the sensitivity is very high, he can flick, turn, and then he gets locked into that sort of less flexible moving pattern. Same with the other side, kind of curving all the way around. He cannot bounce off of walls. If he hits a wall, he stops. And his base kit turning is very high, then very low. He makes up for this with the insta-down potential. So a lot of Hillbilly is you either use his power for cross-map mobility, or you use it to quickly move forward and then turn around a loop and catch a survivor off guard and potentially insta-down them. The Blight operates a little bit differently. He does have a flick at the end, and you can actually turn the Blight and then attack in a sort of off direction, left or right from the direction that you're heading. He will have less early turning and curving, but he can bounce off of walls. So with him, you can go forward. You can see he has sort of a frontal cone where he can attack, and this can happen anywhere along his path. He's not just limited to the end. He can go halfway up and then attack in sort of a frontal cone. And he also has the option of redirecting after hitting a wall or other surface and then bouncing off in a different direction. He gets 5 uses of his charge in his base kit, although you cannot attack with the first one. You have to bounce off of something. So his base kit turning is fairly low. You can get a little bit of turning, but really the flick at the end is what allows you to hit people. And he does not have insta-down in his base kit. It also will not apply any exposed effects you have. If you want to insta-down with this power, I believe you have to use, I think it is an iridescent add-on that he has where his final charge will insta-down. And finally, let's look at the Oni. Now, Oni is very different from Hillbilly and Blight. He is not as locked into his movement, and he has much more control. Now, Oni can go in a straight line, similar to what they can, and he also can sort of make these sharp turns that Hillbilly can. Oni can do it more consistently, and he can do it more frequently at any time that he chooses, but it does require a little bit of setup. So Oni can begin moving forward, and at this point in time, somewhere around this part in the loop, he turns and begins facing the inside of the circle and starts strafing to finish his loop. At that point in time, he would then go straight, and he would start turning towards the inside of this loop, strafing to get to here, and then moving along this section. So he can make much sharper turns more frequently. He will also have a flick at the end. So he can make this turn and then flick and hit in this area, which would be very off limits for Hillbilly and potentially off limits for Blight unless you land and redirect very quickly. And his obviously will insta-down. He kind of can bounce off walls in that he does not lose his charge if he goes through a wall, and sometimes you will intentionally charge into a wall in a way that you can choose to go left or right and catch the survivor off guard should they guess wrong. So Oni's power is going to be much better at shutting down loops and stopping survivors for the obvious reason that he doesn't have it all game. He has to earn his power. So it needs to be more powerful than both Hillbilly and Blight's power. So I'm going to show you some game clips coming up from a survivor perspective of how you can pre-position yourself and what angles you want to take during a loop to make sure that Oni cannot insta-down you. When being chased by Oni, the primary thing that you're going to notice is that I am consistently putting myself into a position where I can see the Oni through my third-person field of view, but he cannot see me. He is much faster and has a very wide range where he can strike me, so I'm repeatedly positioning in myself where he has to make guesses, and I can generally know where he's going to come at me. So I run around the circle, and every time I see that he uses his power, I try to either double back, tuck in, or take an angle where he cannot immediately hit me. Against normal killers, you would not really take these paths, but when Oni is in his power, he has a lot of trouble redirecting. When he does not use his charge power, or he is not in a position to hit me with his charge power, I will take the vaults. However, I will make sure to avoid them if I believe he's going to use his power, because he will catch me and insta-down me before I can successfully clear the window. In this next clip, you will notice that my spine chill goes off and I immediately leave. One of the worst things you can do against an Oni, and really any killer that has the capability to insta-down you, is to get caught out of position. So I use my spine chill and I try to get as much of an advantage over him as possible, and not giving him any free distance. Now he pops his power, and so I go back to positioning myself where I don't believe he'll be able to hit me with it. Now you'll notice here, I break the rule that I previously established, and he's not using his power, and I fail to take the vault. In that situation, I should have taken the vault. Instead, I got downed. It is important to remember that unlike Billy, Oni does not need to charge his power in order to insta-down you. Oni can hold his mouse 1 attack for about half of a second to get the insta-down effect. I hope this video was helpful to you all, and if you do play up against an Oni in the near future who knows how to turn and successfully play Oni, come back and let me know in the comment section if any of these tactics helped you and how you feel about it. Also, be sure to press the like button if you liked it. If you dislike the button, be sure to send me hate mail, as well as press the dislike button, and don't forget to subscribe for similar content to this. Thanks everyone.